New York City, 7:03 a.m. The coffee in Ethan Cole's corner office had gone cold, untouched in its sleek minimalist cup. Across from him, Manhattan stretched toward the sky like it had something to prove. Steel, glass, ambition. He could see all of it from the 87th floor of Empire Tech Tower, a monument he'd built from algorithms and insomnia. From this height, the world looked quiet, manageable, controlled. He turned slightly, his tailored suit whispering against the leather of his chair. On the desk before him, 3 screens, 2 phones, and a heavy cream-colored envelope he hadn't moved in days. Its edges were crisp. Its presence, a stone in his shoe. Wedding invitation, Miss Sophia Morales. He hadn't planned to send it. Not really. Having it printed was a gesture. A provocation, maybe. She wouldn't come, of course. She was buried somewhere in Texas, probably still stitching kids back together in some underfunded hospital, still hating him, or worse, not thinking of him at all. Ethan leaned forward and flipped open the invitation. The ink was raised, the script elegant, the venue predictably grand. The Langham 5th Avenue. Celeste had spared no expense, which meant Ethan had spared none either. Everything in his life now was about optics, elegance, strategy. But this envelope, it didn't fit. He slid it shut again. His reflection ghosted back at him in the glass. Angular jaw, impeccable grooming, hollow eyes. He was 38, globally envied, on the cover of Forbes 5 times over. And yet the only thing he could think about this morning was whether Sophia would even recognize him now. He hadn't recognized himself in a long time. At 7:23, Celeste breezed into the office like a change in weather. Blonde, ageless, always dressed as if photographed. She kissed the air near his cheek and sat across from him, crossing her legs with surgical precision. "We need to finalize the seating chart today," she said, placing a leather-bound folder on his desk. "Also, the Wall Street Journal wants to do a pre-wedding profile, something about love, legacy, and leadership. I told them you'd love that." Ethan grunted in response. She didn't notice, or didn't care. She slid the folder toward him. "Put Jonas near the press table. He photographs well. And I moved your what was her name?" He glanced up. Celeste smiled thinly. "Sophia." "Right. I moved her to row 5, aisle seat. If she even shows." His jaw tightened. "You put her on the list?" "I thought you wanted her there," she said, brushing imaginary lint off her lap. "You left the invitation on your desk for 3 days like it meant something." He said nothing. Celeste tilted her head. "Don't worry, Ethan. She'll see exactly what she missed." She stood and kissed the air near him again. "You're welcome." When she was gone, Ethan stood and moved to the window. The city pulsed below, millions of people scrambling for something, meaning money, connection. He'd chased all 3. 2 had shown up, 1 had never called back. He rubbed his thumb across the edge of the invitation. Her name embossed, Sophia Morales. The last time he saw her was a rainy Tuesday in Baltimore. She wore navy scrubs and a ponytail and had called him by his full name when she was angry. He hadn't told her he was leaving. Or why. There wasn't time. There was never time. He remembered the text that never got a reply. "Call me. It's important." He hadn't. 6 months later, he was on the cover of TechCrunch. 2 years after that, he made his first $1 billion. He told himself success was a kind of apology. But it wasn't. It never would be. The sky turned a shade lighter, the city waking in pulses. Ethan pulled out his phone and scrolled through the wedding seating app, then paused. Row 5. Number. That wasn't right. He moved her to the front, right side. A gesture, a warning. Maybe both. If she came, he wanted her to see everything. the success, the power, the woman he was about to marry. Let her see how well he'd done. Let her see what he'd become without her. He tapped save and tossed the invitation into his briefcase. His driver would be downstairs in 4 minutes. A press meeting at CNBC, a design review at Empire Tech Labs, a photo op with a senator at 2 o'clock, then dinner with Celeste and her father's hedge fund partners. A full day, a powerful day, and yet none of it felt real. When the elevator doors opened, Ethan stepped inside alone. He didn't notice the receptionist whispering to her co-worker as the doors closed. Didn't notice the lingering look she gave his briefcase. She'd caught a glimpse of the envelope inside. Sophia Morales. The woman no one at Empire Tech had ever heard of, but the one he had never truly forgotten. Dallas was already hot by 8 a.m., the air thick with the kind of summer humidity that made everything feel slower, heavier. Inside the pediatric surgery wing of St. Mary's, Dr. Sophia Morales moved fast anyway, her ponytail swaying as she clipped through the hallway with a chart in one hand and a yogurt she hadn't touched in the other. She paused outside room 312, adjusted her mask, and slipped inside. A toddler with a chest scar grinned up at her from his mother's lap. The mother, mid-30s, exhausted but hopeful, reached for Sophia's hand. "Thank you, really. We were so scared." Sophia's voice softened. "He's a tough one. You both are." When she left the room, her expression stayed gentle for about 10 steps. Then her shoulders sank. Another day, another parent handing her the gratitude that never quite healed whatever cracked open in her years ago. At the nurse's station, her colleague Maya Lane raised an eyebrow over the rim of her coffee. "You okay?" she asked, pushing a box toward her. Sophia blinked. "What's this?" Maya tilted her head, then reached across to lift the envelope herself. Heavy paper, no postage. Hand-delivered. Some courier in a suit dropped it off, said it was time-sensitive. Sophia felt her stomach clench before she even saw the name on the back flap. Cole and Hawthorne. The Langham, NYC. She knew that name. Even now, even 6 years later, her pulse reacted like it used to when Ethan walked into a room, too fast, too unguarded. Maya watched her closely. "That's from him, isn't it?" Sophia didn't answer. She turned the envelope over once, then again. "Are you going to open it?" "I already know what's inside," she said. She opened it anyway, later that night, alone in the kitchen while her boys were drawing dinosaurs in the living room. The invitation was perfect, of course it was. Embossed lettering, thick cardstock, a wax seal stamped with his initials. "Ethan James Cole and Celeste Hawthorne request the pleasure of your company." She didn't realize her hands were trembling until she set it down and saw the soft tremor in her fingers. He was marrying someone else, and he wanted her there to watch it. She leaned against the counter, closing her eyes, waiting for the emotion to settle. It didn't. She didn't even know who Celeste was, but it didn't matter. All she could picture was Ethan, the way he used to look at her like she was the only person in the room, the way he left without saying goodbye, the way she sat in a doctor's office alone, hearing 3 heartbeats instead of 1. He'd never returned her calls, never replied to the email with the subject line, "Please read. It's important." After a while, she stopped trying. Then the trying turned into silence, and the silence hardened. "Mama?" She opened her eyes. Eli stood in the doorway, his curls a mess, clutching his favorite dinosaur plush. "I had a dream," he said quietly. She crouched down. "Was it scary?" "Number weird." He rubbed one eye. "There was a man. I think he was looking for us." Her throat tightened. She smoothed his hair back gently, pressing a kiss to his forehead. "Come sit with me," she said. He climbed onto her lap. Sophia stared at the envelope still resting on the table. For a second she imagined throwing it out, but she didn't. Eli traced the edge of it with one finger. "Is that from the man?" She hesitated. "What man?" "The one in your drawer. The photo drawer." Sophia inhaled slowly. She kept that photo hidden. Ethan in a t-shirt, grinning under a streetlight. He'd taken her out for tacos that night and said he loved her while they sat on a cracked sidewalk with salsa stains on their pants. "His name is Ethan," she said finally. "Is he my dad?" The words landed like a knock at the door she'd boarded up years ago. She didn't answer. Not yet. The next morning, Sophia dropped the boys off at summer day camp, then parked at a quiet spot behind the hospital. She sat in the driver's seat, staring at the steering wheel like it might tell her what to do. She didn't owe Ethan anything. But her sons? That was a different story. They were starting to notice, to wonder, to ask. And now there was a wedding, an invitation, a stage. Was this Ethan's twisted way of showing her how far he'd come? A public flex, a veiled insult? Or did he actually want her there? Did it matter? She pulled out her phone and opened the calendar app. The wedding was in 3 weeks. She tapped in the date. Then she stared at it for a long time. Maybe this wasn't about him. Maybe this was about her walking into that ballroom, looking him in the eyes, and knowing she no longer needed closure. Maybe she would go. And maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't go alone. Manhattan, 6:42 p.m. The boardroom on the 87th floor of Empire Tech wasn't meant for emotion. It was made of polished walnut, brushed steel, and glass that held the city like a snow globe in its frame. But tonight, something in the air was off. Ethan Cole sat alone at the head of the long table, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. The lights overhead were dimmed and his phone buzzed every 4 minutes with reminders he kept swiping away. On the table in front of him sat a single printed photograph. It was old, maybe 8 years, blurry, off-center. But Sophia's smile shone like light through fog. Her eyes were crinkled in the corners, head tilted back, one hand midair, caught in motion. She hadn't known he was taking the photo. It had been a warm night in Baltimore, a takeout picnic on a rooftop. She'd brought hot sauce in her bag like it was holy. He'd told her he was going to build something big, and she hadn't laughed. She'd believed him. He'd meant to tell her everything that night, that a venture capital firm wanted him in Silicon Valley, that he was leaving in 2 days. But the moment never came. She fell asleep on his shoulder, and the next day he boarded a flight and never looked back. Or at least he pretended not to. He hadn't thought about that photo in years, not until the invitation went out, not until Jonas called this morning with a question that wouldn't let go. "Why'd you really send it, Ethan? You want her to see what she lost, or what you did?" A sharp knock broke his train of thought. Jonas stepped in, wearing jeans and a gray Henley that made him look more like a magazine editor than the COO of a billion-dollar company. "You're still here," he said, eyebrows raised. Clearly. "Skipped the party," Celeste noticed. "I'm sure she filed the appropriate paperwork." Jonas sat down across from him and took in the table. "Is that Sophia?" Ethan didn't move. "Yeah." There was a beat of silence. "She hasn't changed much," Jonas said. "Still got that smile that makes you feel like she already knows what you're hiding." Ethan looked up. "You met her once. For 15 minutes. 15 unforgettable minutes," Jonas said, dry. "She called me out for cutting in front of a nurse in line at the hospital vending machine. Said, 'Tech boys don't get special treatment here.' I respected the hell out of her." Ethan gave a quiet snort. "She was always like that." "She was good for you," Jonas added. "She was inconvenient," Ethan said flatly, then caught himself. His tone had been too sharp, too practiced. That's what I told myself back then. Jonas folded his arms. And now? Ethan looked down at the photo again. Now I'm not so sure. The silence stretched long between them. Finally, Jonas leaned forward. She's not on the guest list. Ethan didn't look up. Jonas continued more carefully. Celeste asked me to double-check the press packet. Sophia's not there. Her name's missing. Ethan's head snapped up. She was supposed to be front right, second row. Jonas shook his head. She's not. And neither are you in half the write-ups. It's all Celeste. Her firm, her rise, her story. Ethan stood abruptly, the chair scraping behind him. Fix it. I can, Jonas said. But that's not the real problem, is it? Ethan's hands clenched into fists. She's rewriting our life like it's hers. Or maybe, Jonas said gently, you never wrote it down in the first place. Later that night, long after Jonas had left, Ethan found himself alone in his penthouse, nursing a drink he didn't want. The city below him buzzed, a million lives moving forward. His didn't feel like it was. He picked up his phone and pulled up the contacts. Her name was still there. Sophia Morales. No emoji, no updates. Just a number that probably didn't work anymore. He hovered over the call button, thumb twitching. Instead, he opened his email and searched her name. A thread popped up, unread. 6 years old, subject, please read, it's important. His breath caught. He clicked it open and stopped. The message had been forwarded, not from Sophia, but from Celeste. Forwarded, then marked unread again. The original message had been deleted. Just the subject remained. His fingers trembled. A slow burning cold crept over him. He stood, heart pounding, the glass forgotten, crossed the room and threw open the safe behind his bookshelf. Inside was a file, one Celeste had given him years ago. It was labeled Past. He opened it. There was nothing. Not one letter. Not one photo. Not one reminder of the woman who'd once said, "If you build your empire, build it with love, or it will rot from the inside." The file had been emptied. And now, for the first time in years, Ethan wasn't sure what, if anything, was still his. Manhattan. 3 weeks later. The lobby of Empire Tech felt like a museum of ambition. Marble floors that never scuffed, walls that stretched too high to feel human, and a reception desk staffed with silent, perfect faces. It was the kind of place designed to make visitors feel small. Sophia Morales didn't feel small. She walked in with her chin high and her heart loud. Her curls were pinned back, her black coat buttoned tight despite the early autumn warmth. Behind her, 3 boys marched in an uneven line like ducklings, their matching navy blazers barely disguising their restlessness. "Mom," Nico whispered loudly, tugging her hand. "Can I press the elevator button? Please, please." "Me first," Max argued, adjusting his glasses like a CEO in training. Eli stayed quiet, close at her side, gripping the sketch pad he'd barely put down since they left Dallas. Sophia crouched, eye level with them. "No elevator buttons. We're just dropping something off. Remember, no running, no yelling, no negotiations." All 3 nodded. One would forget within 30 seconds. She rose, inhaled, and approached the desk. The receptionist's eyes flicked from her to the boys, then back. Something flickered there. Confusion, maybe recognition, but the smile stayed fixed. "Can I help you?" "Yes," Sophia said, steady. "I'm here to see Ethan Cole." The woman blinked. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Sophia replied, "but he invited me to his wedding. I believe that counts." The woman faltered, just briefly, before tapping something on her touchscreen. "One moment." Sophia stepped back, her boys clustered around her legs. Max craned his neck upward, trying to see the top of the glass tower through the atrium ceiling. "Does he live here?" he whispered. "No," she answered, "but it probably feels like he does." Upstairs, Ethan stood before the wall of windows in his office, lost in numbers that suddenly meant nothing. Revenue forecasts, mergers, head counts. Everything felt like white noise since the night he read that subject line. "Please read. It's important." He'd read it 100 times now, all while knowing he'd never read the words themselves. They were gone. Celeste had made sure of that. He turned when his assistant knocked twice. "There's someone here to see you," she said, her tone tentative. "Who?" The pause stretched. "She says she was invited to your wedding." Ethan's heart stuttered. He straightened. "Sophia?" The assistant nodded. "And, she's not alone." When the elevator opened on the 87th floor, Sophia stepped out slowly, her boys at her heels. The office was quiet, intimidating, so sterile it almost hummed. The boys' shoes clicked on the marble. Eli's hand found hers again. "This place is like a spaceship," Max whispered. Nico had already darted toward the wall of windows. "Look, ant cars." Ethan appeared then, emerging from his glass-walled office, and for a moment, just one, the world held its breath. He looked the same, or at least his bones did. His jaw, that unmistakable walk, the way his eyes scanned the room like he was calculating a threat or a miracle. But his eyes, they were different, not colder, just quieter, like a storm that had worn itself out. Their eyes locked. "Sophia," he said, the name catching in his throat. She nodded once. "Ethan." He stepped forward, but his gaze dropped. 3 sets of brown eyes stared back at him, one cautious, one curious, one utterly unbothered. Max broke the silence. "Are you the guy from Mom's photo drawer?" Sophia's cheeks flushed. "Max?" Ethan blinked. "Photo drawer?" Max looked satisfied. "I knew you were real." "I'm real," Ethan said softly, and knelt without thinking. I think I know who you are." Nico stepped closer. "Mom said you used to know us." "No," Ethan said quietly. "I didn't, but I should have." The boys were silent then, weighing his words with far more gravity than their age suggested. Eli spoke last, holding up his sketchpad. "I've been drawing you, even before we met." Ethan took it, carefully flipping through the pages. Stick figures mostly, but one stood out. 3 boys with curls and wide eyes, and behind them, a taller figure with no face, just a question mark. It knocked the air out of him. Sophia saw it. She stepped in. "I didn't bring them to make a scene, Ethan," she said. "I brought them because they're old enough to wonder. And I'm tired of lying by omission." He stood slowly. "Why now?" "Because you sent the invitation," she replied. "And I needed them to see the truth, even if it's not the one they hope for." Their eyes locked again, and for the first time in years, something unspoken passed between them. He nodded once. "Would you stay, just a few minutes?" Sophia glanced at the boys. 5, maybe 10. Max was already dragging Nico toward the leather couch near the corner. Eli trailed behind, sketchpad under one arm, gaze still fixed on Ethan like he was trying to solve a puzzle with no box image. Sophia turned back. "They don't know what happened." "I'm not sure I do either," Ethan admitted. "Then maybe it's time you learn," she said. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city pulsed as always. But inside, something far more fragile had begun to stir. An uneasy beginning, yes, but a beginning nonetheless. Manhattan. 2 days later. Celeste Hawthorne didn't believe in accidents. Not in business, not in press coverage, and certainly not in weddings. She sat at the head of the conference table, her laptop open to a draft of the Wall Street Journal feature her PR team had ghostwritten. The headline made her smile. The billionaire couple who built an empire of precision. Clean. Aspirational. No hint of chaos. No mention of 3 curly-haired boys who had walked into Empire Tech uninvited. She shut the screen, composed her face, and turned to her assistant. "Who leaked it?" Marissa flinched. "There's no leak, but Jonas saw them. The kids. They were here with Sophia, in your fiancé's office. It wasn't discreet." Celeste inhaled through her nose, slowly. "And Ethan?" "He hasn't said a word, but the seating chart for the wedding changed this morning." Celeste's eyes narrowed. "Changed how?" "Sophia Morales moved to the front row." For a second, nothing moved on Celeste's face. Then her lips curved. "Interesting." Meanwhile, on the other side of the building, Ethan stood in his office staring at a wall of screens he wasn't seeing. He'd barely slept. The visit from Sophia and the boys had left him disoriented, unmoored. He kept seeing Max's raised eyebrow, Nico's easy grin, Eli's quiet sketches. Mirrors of him, but softened by her. He hadn't planned on feeling anything. Certainly not guilt, not grief for time lost. And yet, it crept in anyway. His phone buzzed. A message from Jonas. "We need to talk. Not about business." He replied, "Come up." 2 minutes later, Jonas walked in without knocking, holding a folder and a look that meant he wasn't here to be polite. "Do you know what Celeste is doing?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "She's reshaping the narrative. The PR packet lists you as a visionary partner to the Hawthorne legacy. That's her headline, not yours." Ethan frowned. "I don't care what—" "Yes, you do," Jonas cut in. "And you should. Because this wedding has become a branding campaign. And you're the prop, Ethan. I agreed to the spotlight. You didn't agree to erasing yourself." Ethan looked away, jaw tight. "It doesn't matter. None of this matters compared to what I missed." Jonas sat across from him. "Then why are you still marrying her?" Silence. Jonas continued, voice lower now. "You've got 3 kids who look exactly like you and a woman who walked into your office without asking for a damn thing. You should be on your knees trying to fix that, not staging a high-gloss wedding for Wall Street." Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper. "You think I don't know that? Then do something, because Celeste won't wait for you to grow a conscience. She'll spin this before you can blink, and those boys will become a PR liability before you know it." That night, Sophia stood on the fire escape of her Brooklyn walk-up, watching the city lights blur into each other like watercolor. Inside, the boys were asleep. Max had fallen out of bed twice. Nico snored like a freight train. Eli had tucked his newest sketch under his pillow, a drawing of a man at a distance, with 3 little boys running toward him. Sophia hugged her arms around herself, wishing she could feel the kind of certainty she used to practice like medicine. She didn't regret going to Empire Tech, but she wasn't sure what she'd opened. Ethan hadn't made promises, hadn't asked questions. He'd looked stunned, gutted even, but that wasn't the same as being ready. Behind her, a knock came at the door. She startled, checked the clock. Nearly 10 o'clock. When she opened it, a small brown box sat on her welcome mat. No name, no card. Inside was a harmonica. One of the cheap plastic kinds they'd once bought together from a street vendor in Baltimore. Sophia had joked she'd teach their imaginary kids to play it one day. She hadn't thought he'd remember. She sat on the couch and stared at it for a long time. Maybe Ethan was trying to speak in pieces. Maybe it was too late. She didn't know. But something inside her shifted, just slightly. At Empire Tech, Ethan stood on his balcony, the city humming beneath him. Jonas had gone. The office was dark. In his hand, he held a second harmonica, one he'd never meant to find. One Sophia had once slipped into his suitcase with a note. "When the world gets too loud, breathe into this instead." He hadn't opened the note until years later, But tonight he did, and for the first time in years he breathed in and listened to something that wasn't ambition, something that felt like memory, something that felt like beginning. Manhattan. 2 days later. The hum of the server room echoed around Jonas as he walked through Empire Tech's sub-level corridors. The light here was harsher, sterile. Unlike the upper floors where Ethan reigned, down here everything pulsed. Data streams, algorithm tests, voice-to-pattern AI learning models. But Jonas wasn't here for code. He was here for something that didn't add up. After their talk in Ethan's office, something had gnawed at him. The way Ethan had said he never got Sophia's message. The way his inbox had shown a forwarded email with no body. Jonas wasn't just Ethan's right-hand man. He was the one who used to dig for him when a competitor got too close. The one who erased PR fires before they burned. Now he was digging again, but this time into Ethan's past. He pulled up archived communication logs, not the public interface. Celeste would have cleaned that. He needed the root data, the metadata. When he found it, his blood ran cold. 6 messages, all from Sophia Morales, all marked read by Celeste's admin account. None forwarded, one with a flagged subject. Ethan, I'm pregnant. Jonas closed his laptop, heart hammering. There it was, proof. Celeste hadn't just kept Ethan from Sophia. She'd intercepted her pregnancy news and erased it. This wasn't corporate maneuvering. This was personal. Upstairs, Ethan stood in front of the Langham Ballroom's digital renderings, arms crossed, his mind nowhere near centerpieces or lighting. Celeste moved beside him, pointing to a projected seating layout on the tablet. Press will be here, she said. Your family here, and I made sure the head table is fully symmetrical. No ex-girlfriends in range. He turned slowly. So you admit you changed Sophia's seat? Celeste's eyes didn't flinch. Of course I did. She's not family. She's the mother of my children. Celeste's jaw twitched. You're assuming a lot. I know, he said, because Jonas pulled the records. She froze. I know about the messages, the email, the one where she told me she was pregnant. Her voice went icy. You were about to throw your career away for her. You were distracted. I did what was necessary. You decided I didn't get to know I had children. I decided to protect what we were building. That wasn't your decision, wasn't it? Celeste stepped closer. You handed me the reins when you stopped answering anything that wasn't about Empire Tech. You didn't want a life, Ethan. You wanted escape velocity. I just gave you what you asked for. He stared at her, all the glass and steel between them cracking. This wedding, was it ever about us? He asked. Her smile barely moved. It was about winning. Ethan walked out without another word, not just from the ballroom, from the hotel, from the entire script of the life he'd let someone else direct. His phone buzzed. A message from Jonas. You should see this. A file attached. The original metadata chain. Dates, IP logs, Sophia's name. He stopped cold in the middle of Fifth Avenue. All that time. All those years. He thought she'd walked away. But she hadn't. She'd tried. And someone else had buried it. That night, Sophia found herself back in her tiny kitchen, wiping tomato sauce off Eli's chin as Max debated the merit of green vegetables, and Nico pretended to faint dramatically onto the floor. Normal chaos. Until her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at it. For a second, her thumb hovered. She answered. Sophia. The voice stopped her cold. It was familiar and wrong, deeper than it used to be. Softer, too. Ethan, she said, I read the email. Silence. I never saw it before, I swear to you, but I've seen it now. She didn't speak. I don't know what to say except, I'm sorry, for everything. A long pause. I believed you left, she said quietly. That you didn't want to know. I did, he said. I just didn't know what I didn't know. Sophia let the silence breathe then. They're good boys, Ethan. They don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be real. I want to meet them again, he said. Not in an office, not in a lobby. I don't want them near a wedding where they'll be seen as a scandal. Neither do I. Another pause. Tomorrow, he said. Can I come to you? Just me. Sophia looked across the room at her sons. Eli was humming. Max had stolen the remote. Nico had climbed onto the kitchen table again. You can come, she said, but don't bring excuses. I'll bring the truth, he said. She hung up, and for the first time in a long time, she wasn't sure what scared her more, the lie she'd believed for years, or what might happen now that it was gone. Brooklyn. The next morning. The apartment smelled like cinnamon waffles and anxiety. Sophia moved through the kitchen on autopilot, pouring juice, flipping waffles, intercepting Nico before he launched himself off the counter again. Her body was calm, practiced. But her heart? It was pacing. Ethan was coming. Not the Ethan she used to know, the hungry grad student who whispered business ideas into her hair at night, who kissed her wrist when he was nervous. This was a new version. The man on magazine covers. The one she didn't trust with her time, let alone her children. And yet, she'd said yes. Maybe because she saw something in his eyes 2 days ago. Not regret exactly. Something quieter, like recognition. Mom, Max said, sliding into the booth at the tiny kitchen table. Are billionaires allowed to wear jeans? Sophia raised an eyebrow. Why? He shrugged. I want to know if he's going to be weird. Like, suit at breakfast weird. Eli piped up without looking up from his sketchpad. He didn't feel weird. He felt nervous. Sophia froze at the stove. What do you mean? Eli turned his page slowly. He smiled, but his eyes were scared. Sophia stared at her son. They saw everything. Every shift, every silence. The knock came at 9:42 a.m. She took a breath before she opened the door. Ethan stood there, holding a small brown paper bag. No security, no driver. Just jeans, a navy pullover, and a face that looked like it hadn't slept much. Good morning, he said, quieter than she expected. Sophia stepped aside without speaking. He walked into the apartment like a man entering a cathedral, slow, reverent, unsure of the rules. The boys spotted him immediately. Nico bolted over. Max crossed his arms. Eli just watched. I brought muffins, Ethan said, holding out the bag like a peace offering. Nico peered in. Is there chocolate? 3 kinds, Ethan said. I had help picking them. From who? Max asked, suspicious. Ethan paused. From the woman at the bakery. Her name was Ruth. She said kids always want chocolate, even if their moms say no. Sophia smirked. Smart woman. The boys pounced on the bag, leaving Ethan and Sophia alone by the fridge. You didn't have to bring anything, she said. I needed to, he replied. I don't know how else to start. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table while the boys devoured muffins and peppered Ethan with questions. What's your job? Do you like video games? Why don't you have a dog? Ethan answered every question with a kind of fragile honesty. He didn't pretend. He didn't dodge. When Max asked, Why didn't you know about us? He didn't deflect. He looked at Sophia first, and then he said, Because someone kept the message from me, and I didn't look hard enough. Sophia felt her spine soften, just slightly. The kids looked between them like they were watching the middle of a movie they'd never been allowed to start. Later, after cartoons and more muffins, the boys were off in the living room. Eli drawing again, Max reading, Nico trying to build a spaceship out of couch cushions. Sophia poured 2 mugs of coffee and handed one to Ethan. They sat at the table again, quieter now. "I'm not angry," she said. "Not anymore, but I was." "I would be too," Ethan said. "I still might be if I were you. I thought you didn't want to know, that I'd meant nothing." "You meant everything," he said. "I was just too busy proving I didn't need anyone to admit I did." The words hung there, honest, unpolished. Sophia studied him. "You've changed," she said. "I hope so." "And you're still getting married?" He didn't flinch. "I don't know." She raised an eyebrow. "I thought I was," he said. "But now, I can't imagine standing in front of the world promising something I already know isn't true." "You still love her?" "I don't think I ever did," he admitted. "We were building something, not being something." Sophia nodded slowly, letting that settle. Ethan sipped his coffee. "You didn't ask for anything. Not child support, not help, nothing." "I didn't want to beg someone to care," she said. "Especially someone who'd already walked away once. I won't walk again." "You might," she said quietly. "Not because you're cruel, but because this isn't your world. It's loud and messy and real. There are no quarterly reviews here, just Legos in the blender and someone needing you every minute." "I want to learn," Ethan said, "even if it takes time, even if I screw up." Sophia searched his face. He wasn't posturing, he wasn't performing. He was asking for access, not just to his sons, but to the life he'd missed, and something in her, some small, tired, hopeful part, wanted to say yes. "Start with Tuesdays," she said. He blinked. "Tuesdays? You pick them up from camp. You get dinner. You try to figure out bedtime without calling me in a panic." He smiled for the first time. "That's how I prove myself?" She smiled back. "That's how you start." When he left an hour later, the boys waved from the window, and Sophia stood in the doorway just long enough to watch him look back. He didn't say anything. He just nodded. And it was enough. For today. Central Park, Saturday afternoon. The city breathed differently on weekends, softer, slower, like it too needed a minute to exhale. Central Park was alive with it, families spread out on blankets, couples tangled on benches, joggers weaving between toddlers and pigeons. Sophia sat on a patch of grass near the turtle pond, sunglasses perched on her head, half watching her boys burn off energy in the sun. She sipped iced coffee and glanced at her phone. No messages. Ethan hadn't texted since Tuesday. Their first trial run had gone better than expected. He'd picked the boys up on time, returned them fed, clean, and only slightly hyped up on ice cream. Eli had even drawn him into his sketchbook. Still, the silence since then gnawed at her. It wasn't disappointment. It was something older, more familiar. Anticipation laced with doubt. She looked up, just in time to see Max bolt into the trees. "Nico, stay where I can see you," she called, standing up. "Max, no exploring without telling me." "I'm not," he shouted back. "I just saw something weird." She started to move, but Eli tugged at her sleeve. "Mom," he whispered, "I think he's here." She froze. "Who?" But Eli didn't answer. He was already looking past her toward the trees. Sophia turned, and there he was. Ethan hadn't meant to intrude. He'd been walking home from a meeting, his driver off for the afternoon. He just needed air. A walk, something simple. And somehow his feet led him here. To them. He spotted Max first, crouched near a cluster of rocks, pointing at a squirrel with theatrical urgency. Then Nico, half hidden behind a tree, trying to look like a secret agent. And then Sophia. Her head tilted back, hair loose in the wind, one hand shielding her eyes as she squinted toward the trees. She hadn't seen him yet. But Eli had. Eli didn't smile. He just stared, like he already knew this moment was coming. Ethan stepped forward, hands visible, unsure of the rules. Sophia turned and stilled. "Hi," he said, voice cautious. She walked to meet him, crossing her arms. "You following us?" "No," he said. "Not on purpose." She waited. "I was walking," he explained, "and I saw Max. Then the rest of you. I didn't want to interrupt." "But you did." "I know." He swallowed. "Should I go?" Sophia studied him. "You were invited Tuesday nights, not unannounced Saturday afternoons." "I'm sorry." She looked past him to where Nico was waving from a tree stump. Max was pretending to tame a squirrel. Eli hadn't moved, still watching them both. "They'll want to say hi," she said. Ethan looked relieved. "Only if it's okay." "It's not about me being okay," she said. "It's about what you do next." They sat on the grass. The boys swarmed him with questions. "Do billionaires go to the bathroom in limos? Can you fly a helicopter? Do you know Batman?" Ethan laughed. Genuinely, it surprised even him. "I've been in a limo bathroom," he admitted. "It's tiny, like a spaceship stall." The boys howled. Sophia watched from a few feet away, legs crossed, arms folded. She didn't smile. Not yet. After a while, Ethan walked over, crouched beside her. "They're brilliant," he said. "They're exhausting," she replied. "That's how brilliance works in 6-year-olds." He chuckled, then turned quiet. "I've been thinking about them all week, about you." Sophia didn't answer. "I know I can't make up for what I missed," he continued, "but I want to be part of their story now. All of it. Not just Tuesdays." She met his eyes. "What about your wedding?" He inhaled. "We haven't canceled. Not yet. But we haven't sent final confirmations either." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "You're 2 weeks out." "I know." "And Celeste?" "She knows something's changed." Sophia looked away toward Eli, who was now sketching a picture of Ethan playing tag. "She'll fight," Sophia said. "You know that, right? Not with fists, but with spin and money and power." "I know," he said. "But for the first time, I'm not afraid of that." She looked back at him. "Why not?" she asked. "Because for the first time, I have something real to fight for." There was no grand gesture, no swelling music, just a park, 3 boys, and 2 people realizing that the past wasn't the whole story. But it still mattered. And maybe, just maybe, so did what came next. Midtown Manhattan, the Langham Hotel suite. Celeste Hawthorne stood barefoot in a silk robe, staring at the perfectly aligned row of wedding favors her assistant had just laid out on the suite's massive walnut table. Hand-poured candles in monogrammed boxes. Imported linens. A list of guests who each had a net worth over $10 million. Every element of this wedding screamed precision, elegance, power. But none of it could quiet the storm brewing beneath her composure. She took a sip of her green juice, then turned to Marissa, her assistant. "Tell me again what Jonas said." Marissa hesitated. He was vague. Just said Ethan's been acting distracted, that he's been spending time outside of the office, with her. Celeste didn't blink. "The ex." Marissa nodded. "And the children." Children. 3 of them. With Ethan's cheekbones and his dark eyes. Celeste had seen the photo someone had snapped in Central Park. Ethan in jeans, grinning, one of the boys on his back, another tugging at his hand. The image made her stomach clench, not from jealousy, from something colder, something that felt like la sire. She turned back to the candles. "Move Sophia Morales to table 1, she said. Marissa blinked. "Isn't that—" "Yes, with press visibility," Celeste said calmly. "Front and center. Let her be the story she clearly wants to be." "Are you sure?" Celeste's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Absolutely. Let the world see what I've overcome." Later that night, Celeste stood in front of the mirror in her private dressing room. Her reflection stared back at her. Flawless makeup, polished bun, a gown that had cost more than her first hedge fund investment. But she saw it. The crack in the mask. The tremor just beneath the surface. She'd built her life on precision, control, never letting anyone close enough to see the raw parts. And Ethan, he'd been the safest kind of partner. Focused, powerful, uninterested in emotional messes. Until now. She picked up the old photo tucked behind her jewelry case. It was faded, but she knew every corner of it. Her at 16. Her mother, smiling like someone who wasn't planning to disappear 2 weeks later. Her father, already halfway out the door. Celeste had learned early. Love was temporary. Power wasn't. She'd learned to win, to lead, to shape the narrative before anyone else could. And now it was slipping, because of a woman who'd made a life from the one Celeste had carefully erased. She turned, pulled her phone from her clutch, and dialed a private number. A man's voice answered. "I need a statement ready," she said. "About children. Ethan's surprise discovery. Position it as grace under pressure, family values. Turn it into our story." The man hesitated. "Is that wise?" "I'm not asking for wisdom," she said flatly. "I'm asking for control." Meanwhile, across town, Ethan sat at his kitchen island with a legal pad, scribbling a list he couldn't quite finish. Tell press we're delaying. Talk to Mom. Ask Sophia what she wants. Be better. The last one stayed underlined. He couldn't sleep. His apartment felt foreign now. Too clean. Too staged. The boys had left behind fingerprints on his balcony door the last time they visited, and he still hadn't wiped them off. He picked up his phone and typed a message to Celeste. "We need to talk." Alone. No publicists, no planners, just us. He hesitated, then hit send. Seconds later, it showed read, then nothing. At that same moment in Brooklyn, Sophia stood at her kitchen sink rinsing blueberries while the boys argued over whether time travel was real. Eli wandered in, sketchbook under his arm. He opened to a fresh page and held up a drawing for her to see. It was Ethan. Not cartoonish, not stick figure silly, just real. Ethan sitting on their couch, his arm around all three boys, his face tired but gentle. She stared at it for a long moment. "You think he belongs here?" she asked softly. Eli shrugged. "He tries." That word. Not he's perfect, not he's a hero. He tries. It was more than she ever got from him before. She kissed the top of Eli's head and wondered, when the wedding came, if it came, who Ethan would really choose to show up as. The Langham Hotel, 2 days before the wedding. The suite smelled like tension masked by luxury, jasmine candles, fresh orchids, and lemon-scented polish on furniture no one ever touched. Ethan stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the midtown skyline. New York had never looked more unfamiliar. Behind him, the silence thickened as Celeste closed the bedroom door. She didn't speak. Not yet. She was good at silence. She could turn it into a weapon if she wanted. "I read your message," she said finally, voice even. "You wanted to talk, so talk." Ethan turned. His tuxedo fitting had just ended. He was still in the white shirt, collar unbuttoned, tie undone. He looked tired, but clear. "This wedding," he said. "We need to stop pretending it's real." Celeste's lips barely moved. "That's not what you said 6 months ago." "That was before I knew I had 3 sons," he said. "Before I realized I didn't know the first thing about love, or loyalty, or what the hell I'm even building." Her eyes flicked to the champagne bottle chilling in the corner, then back to him. "Let me guess. Sophia helped you figure all that out." "She didn't ask for anything," he said. "She didn't even ask me to be a father. She just showed up. And suddenly, I could see what was missing." Celeste folded her arms, slow and deliberate. "So this is about guilt." "No," he said, stepping forward. "It's about clarity. I thought I wanted this. Power couple, clean headlines, legacy deals. But I was just following the script you wrote." She laughed, cold, controlled. "You were a full partner in this script, Ethan. Don't rewrite your part now that things feel inconvenient." "I'm not rewriting anything," he said. "I'm just finally reading it with my eyes open." Celeste walked past him, poured herself a small glass of champagne, and stared into it like it could offer her some better version of this moment. "I loved you," she said softly. "In my way. I know. I believed in what we were building. So did I. And now? I don't think I ever believed in us," Ethan admitted. "Just the idea of what we looked like together." Celeste downed the champagne in one sip, then turned and placed the glass down with care. "Do you have any idea what this will do to me?" she asked. "To my name?" Ethan's voice stayed level. "Do you have any idea what it already did to me? To lose 6 years of being a father?" For the first time she flinched. Just barely. But enough. That night Ethan walked into his apartment and didn't bother turning on the lights. He sat in the dark, pulled out his phone, and opened the gallery app. A new photo was waiting. It was from Max via Sophia's number. A group shot. All 3 boys piled on a blanket fort in the living room, Eli holding up a crayon drawing of the Cole clubhouse. Below the photo, "We made you a spot, just in case. M, E, and N." Ethan stared at the screen for a long time. Then he opened his email. To Celeste Hawthorne. Subject, "Wedding Celeste. This is the hardest thing I've ever done, and the simplest. I'm not showing up Saturday, not to the aisle, not to the press, not to the life we were pretending to live. You deserve someone who wants this. I deserve a life that feels real. I'm sorry. Truly." Ethan, he hit send, and breathed for the first time all day. In Brooklyn, Sophia sat in the boys' room, picking up Legos in the dim light while they snored softly under their fort of mismatched sheets. Her phone buzzed. She expected a work notification. Instead, it was a message from Ethan. Just 3 words. "I chose us." She stared at the screen, heart still, eyes full. No promises, no speeches, just a decision. Made in silence, but spoken louder than anything else ever had been. The Langham Ballroom. Wedding day. The Langham's grand ballroom gleamed like a jewelry box cracked open under morning light. Crystals shimmered from towering centerpieces. Soft string music filled the air, and rows of chairs sat in flawless symmetry, waiting. Every napkin was folded like origami, every flute of champagne chilled to perfection. But there was one thing missing. The groom. Celeste stood behind a silk partition in the bridal suite, her hands perfectly still, her face an immovable mask. Her makeup was flawless, long lashes, a bold lip, every feature carved to stun. She had waited for the announcement, for the knock at the door, the whispered, "He's here." But instead there was a knock from her assistant. Hesitant, off rhythm. "Celeste, I think you should read this." The phone was handed over. Her eyes scanned the screen. "I'm not showing up Saturday. Not to the aisle, not to the press, not to the life we were pretending to live." The words were clean, director, not cruel, but unmistakably final. A gasp somewhere in the hallway, then a murmur rippling across the room like a brush fire. He hadn't come. He wasn't coming. For one long minute, Celeste stood frozen. Then, without a word, she sat down in front of the mirror, removed her earrings. One by one. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply looked at herself, at the woman who had climbed her way out of a fatherless childhood, a vanished mother, a Wall Street boys' club, and realized this was the one thing she couldn't outmaneuver. Love didn't yield to design, and control couldn't make someone stay. Across town, Ethan wasn't in a tuxedo. He wore jeans, a white Oxford shirt. His sleeves were rolled up, and he was pacing the sidewalk outside Sophia's apartment, gripping a bouquet of sunflowers from a bodega with a handwritten card folded deep in his pocket. He heard them before he saw them, 3 sets of feet pounding down the hall, Sophia's voice behind them calling, "Slow down, slow down!" The door opened before he could knock. Max threw his arms around Ethan's waist. "You didn't go." "I didn't," Ethan said, stunned by the way the boy held him like he'd always belonged. Nico looked up with wide eyes. "Are you our dad for real now?" Ethan knelt, meeting them eye to eye. "I always was. I just didn't know how to show it." Eli stood to the side, quieter. "You chose us." Ethan smiled. "I did." Sophia stepped into the doorway. She was barefoot, hair in a loose braid, wearing jeans and a t-shirt that said, "Love loudly," in faded script. She was beautiful in a way no ballroom could compete with. They looked at each other for a long moment. No one rushed it. Finally, she said, "There are pancakes." "You missed waffles." "I can live with pancakes," Ethan said, stepping inside. An hour later, the headlines began. Cole Hawthorne wedding called off last minute. Billionaire groom, a no-show exclusive. Ethan Cole spotted in Brooklyn with mystery children. More than just a cold feet story. Celeste Hawthorne's statement, "I wish Ethan and his family the peace they clearly needed." Sophia's phone buzzed as she rinsed syrup off plates. She glanced at the screen and slid it into a drawer, letting it buzz again and again. This moment wasn't for the world. This was for her boys, sitting on the living room floor with Ethan, building a Lego spaceship, and for the man who had chosen them over everything else. He'd missed 6 years, but maybe, just maybe, he was finally right on time. Sunday, the morning after Sophia didn't need to check the news to know the world had caught fire. She could feel it in the vibration of her phone on the kitchen counter, in the texts from old college friends who just wanted to check in, in the uneasy silence between her and Ethan as they sipped coffee while the boys slept, curled like cats across the couch and rug. It had been less than 24 hours since Ethan didn't show up to his own wedding, 24 hours since he stepped into her home instead. And now there was no going back. "I can handle it," Ethan said quietly, watching her over the rim of his mug. "You shouldn't have to," she replied. "But I want to." Sophia looked at him, her eyes tired but sharp. "This doesn't just affect you and me anymore, you know that, right?" "I do. 3 boys. A life I built without you. A routine, school, questions I've dodged for years. You showing up means everything's different now, and not just for the cameras." "I didn't make the choice for a headline," he said. "Then why now?" she asked. Her voice wasn't angry. It was scared. Honest. Ethan exhaled and set his mug down. "Because I've been living in a version of success that never made space for regret. I told myself I didn't need love, or a family, that it would slow me down, that it would be too messy, too distracting. And when Celeste offered structure and strategy, I clung to it." Sophia crossed her arms. "And me? You were never safe," he said. "You saw through everything. You asked for the truth before I knew how to tell it. I wasn't ready then. But when you walked into my office with those boys, it was like the world tilted back into alignment." Sophia didn't move, didn't soften. "You left me. You never answered. And I gave birth alone." He closed his eyes briefly, pain flickering across his face. "I didn't know. I swear to you, Sophia, I didn't know. And if you had," she pressed, "I would have come home." That landed somewhere deep inside her. Not quite forgiveness, but truth, real, raw, and late. Later, while the boys played in the courtyard with paper airplanes, Sophia sat at her desk scrolling through news articles. Billionaire groom backs out. Ethan Cole's shocking decision raises questions about hidden family. Celeste Hawthorne responds with grace, but sources say she's furious behind closed doors. Exclusive. Who is Sophia Morales, pediatric surgeon and the woman at the center of the Cole storm? She slammed the laptop shut. Ethan stepped into the doorway, phone in hand. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Tell me something I don't know. They've already requested interviews, offers for exclusives, tell-all profiles. Sophia laughed bitterly. I don't owe them anything. I owe my boys stability, not gossip. I'll make a public statement, Ethan said. Redirect the attention. Make it clear this is personal, not scandal. Sophia studied him. They'll still come for me. Then let them. But they'll have to go through me first. She didn't answer right away. Are you prepared to be a father in full view of the world, Ethan? She asked. Not just for today, but when Max starts asking why his classmates know more about his family than he does? When Nico wants to know why you left? When Eli starts drawing questions you don't know how to answer? His voice cracked. I'm not prepared, but I'm willing. And that's enough for you? It has to be, he said, because it's all I've got. That night, Sophia found herself watching him read to the boys. Nico fell asleep halfway through the second page. Max pretended he wasn't listening but laughed at every joke. Eli curled close, book in hand, his thumb tucked beneath Ethan's watchband like it belonged there. Sophia stood in the hallway, hand over her mouth, not crying, just breathing. This wasn't what she imagined all those years ago, when she rocked the boys to sleep alone and pictured a man who never called back. But it was real, and real might finally be enough. Monday morning, Empire Tech headquarters. The elevator ride to the 87th floor had never felt longer. Ethan stood inside, alone, watching the numbers blink upward. His reflection in the polished chrome doors looked older than it had last week. Not tired, changed, less polished, more human. He was heading into the fire now. The board wanted answers. Shareholders were uneasy. The media frenzy hadn't cooled, and the whispers around his disappearance from the wedding had only grown louder. But he wasn't here to contain the story anymore. He was here to rewrite it. The elevator chimed. The doors slid open. Waiting for him in the conference room were 9 people in suits and 1 empty seat. His. Celeste was already there, across the long mahogany table. Not in white, not in mourning, in armor. Her signature slate-gray blazer, arms folded, expression unreadable. He took his seat. Let's begin, she said coolly, as if nothing had happened. A lawyer started speaking first. Risk exposure, reputational management, fiduciary responsibilities. Ethan barely heard him. His eyes never left Celeste's. When the room fell quiet again, Celeste leaned forward. You've made your choice clear, she said. But this isn't just about you. We've co-founded a public identity. We built an empire on mutual vision. Ethan responded calmly. Then let's make a new vision. Murmurs buzzed. Celeste tilted her head. And what might that be? Truth, he said. Ownership, imperfection. We stop pretending our lives are investor presentations. You walked away from the most visible deal of your career, she replied. You embarrassed both of us on the front page. I know, he said, but I'm not sorry. Celeste's composure wavered, just barely. I was angry, he continued, at you, at myself, at the time we lost. But I don't want to stay angry. I want to move forward with integrity. And if that means losing half of what I've built to keep what actually matters, so be it. One of the board members cleared his throat. And what exactly matters to you now? Ethan paused. Sophia, Maximum, Nico, Eli, he said, the people I should have fought for sooner. There was silence. Then, one by one, people around the table began nodding. Some slow, some reluctant. But no one argued. Even Celeste didn't. Instead, she stood. "I'll prepare a statement," she said, voice even. "You'll need to return some shares to untangle us legally, and the press will still be watching." "I know." She gave him one last look. "You could have warned me. You would have tried to stop me." She didn't deny it. She only lifted her chin. "Good luck, Ethan." And then she left. Not with a slam. Just the quiet weight of someone who had lost, and knew it. That afternoon, Sophia sat in her tiny backyard, watching the boys chase each other with water guns and shouting about space monsters. Her hands were wrapped around a mug of tea, but her thoughts were elsewhere. On headlines, on whispers at the hospital, on whether this peace could last longer than a week. Her phone buzzed. "Ethan, can I come by? There's something I want to give you." She stared at the screen, thumb hovering, then typed, "Come," but no speeches. 20 minutes later, he was there, hair windblown, shirt untucked, a small envelope in hand. "I made something official," he said. She raised an eyebrow. "If it's a prenup, you're 5 years too late." He chuckled and handed it over. Inside, 3 birth certificate amendments, signatures, a court seal, and one clean line on each. Father, Ethan James Cole. Sophia stared at the papers. "You didn't need to do this yet," she said softly. "Yes, I did," he said. "I want them to know it's not conditional, not a convenience. It's permanent." Her eyes misted. She looked away toward the boys. Eli had stopped running and was watching them again, his sketchbook on the ground. He waved. Sophia turned back to Ethan. "Okay," she said. "Okay? You're in. Officially," she said. "But this doesn't mean we're anything we haven't said out loud." "I know. No romance. Not yet." "I'll wait," he said, "as long as it takes." Sophia nodded. And for the first time in years, she believed him. 3 months later, Brooklyn Sundays had become Ethan's favorite days. They didn't involve shareholder meetings, PR crises, or his former life's endless calendar blocks. Instead, Sundays now came with syrup-sticky fingers, backyard soccer, and the latest in 6-year-old comedic material, which mostly consisted of knock-knock jokes with no punchlines. He was seated on a folding chair in Sophia's small backyard, watching Max and Nico construct an elaborate lava obstacle course out of patio cushions, while Eli sat quietly beneath a tree, sketching them all. Sophia came outside balancing 2 mugs, handing one to him. "No major fires today," she said with mock relief. "That's growth." "Let's not jinx it," Ethan said, smiling into his coffee. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the kind born not from avoidance but from familiarity. Ethan glanced at her. "So, I have a question." Her brow lifted. "About the kids?" "No." He turned to face her more fully. "About us." She stilled, the warmth from her mug grounding her. "I know what I said months ago," he continued. "That I'd wait. That there was no timeline. And I still mean that. But I don't want to keep pretending like this isn't something we're building too." Sophia looked out at the boys, her heart thudding a little faster. "You've become a part of their lives, Ethan. You're showing up. But this, us, it's more fragile than it looks." "I know," he said gently. "And I also know I hurt you in a way I can't undo. But we've been here in this space for 3 months now. Co-parenting, laughing, doing school drop-offs together. You let me in. I'm just asking, is there space for more?" She was quiet for a long beat. Then, "Do you remember what you said the night we broke up?" Ethan closed his eyes. "I said love was a distraction I couldn't afford." She nodded. "And I said you'd regret that someday." "I do," he said simply. "Every day." She looked at him, Really looked, and what she saw wasn't the man who had left her behind. It was someone older, humbler, a father who now knew all three of his sons' favorite bedtime songs and who showed up with backup snacks in his glove box, just in case. She set her mug down. "I'm not ready to fall back into what we had," she said. "I'm not asking you to. But I am willing," she added, "to let something new begin. Slow. No labels, no scripts." His eyes lit up, but he didn't push. "Deal," he said, "one day at a time." Just then, Max came running over, panting. "We need a lava dragon. Mom, you're the dragon." Sophia laughed. "What about Ethan?" Max shrugged. "He can be the grumpy castle guard." Ethan grinned. "I'll allow it." They stood, their hands brushing as they stepped into the backyard chaos. It wasn't a grand romantic reunion, not yet. But it was real, grounded. And more than anything, it was theirs. That evening, as Ethan helped carry empty plates inside, he paused at the threshold. Sophia leaned against the counter, tying up leftover cake in foil. He reached into his coat and pulled out a key. "What's this?" she asked. "A brownstone," he said. "In Park Slope, quiet street, backyard, close to the boys' school." Her eyes widened. "Ethan." "I didn't buy it to move you," he said quickly. "I bought it so if we ever wanted to take that next step, it's there. No pressure, no strings. Just an open door." She held the key, fingers tracing the edges. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything now," he replied. "You've already said yes to what matters most." He kissed the top of her head, gentle, not possessive, and then helped stack the dishes, as if this had always been his life. And maybe now, it finally was. 6 months later, Central Park. The picnic was Sophia's idea. Casual, private, no press, no fanfare. Just the 5 of them, a checkered blanket and a basket full of sandwiches, juice boxes, and Ethan's new obsession, cucumber salad. The park was golden with late afternoon light. Autumn was starting to flirt with the trees, teasing out hints of amber and rust in the leaves above them. Sophia sat barefoot on the blanket, her head tilted back, eyes closed as the breeze lifted strands of hair from her shoulders. The boys chased each other in spirals, laughter echoing between the trees. Ethan stood a few feet away, holding a wooden box under one arm, trying not to fidget. She opened one eye and smiled. "You're twitching." He walked over, crouching beside her. "I brought something." "Oh?" "It's not a proposal," he said quickly. "No rings. No speeches." Sophia arched a brow. "Now I'm disappointed." He grinned and set the box down. Inside were 3 small personalized gifts, nothing expensive, but thoughtfully chosen. A compass for Max, who was obsessed with maps, a harmonica for Nico, who loved noise in all forms, and a stethoscope for Eli, who had recently announced he wanted to be a heart fixer like Mom. "They're beautiful," Sophia said softly. "Why today?" "Because it's not a holiday or a birthday. It's just a Sunday, and I want them to know that being loved doesn't need an occasion." Sophia looked at him, something deep and quiet unfolding behind her eyes. "That's new for you." "I'm learning," he said. "You gave them music. I want to learn their song." He paused, pulled something else from the box, a letter folded neatly. "This is for you." She hesitated, then took it. The paper was heavy, unbranded. Inside was a single page in his handwriting. "Sophia, you once told me I'd regret choosing the life I thought I needed over the one that was already waiting for me. You were right. I used to believe power came from distance, from the ability to remain untouched. I've since learned that real power comes from staying, from presence, from love. I don't know if we'll ever get back what we had, but I'm no longer chasing what I lost. I'm showing up for what's in front of me, every day, and if you'll let me, I'll keep showing up." For you, for them, for the life we're building one Tuesday, one Sunday at a time. Yours, Ethan. When she looked up, he wasn't watching her reaction. He was watching the boys. Max explaining true north to Nico. Eli crouched with a leaf in his palm, studying its veins like they held the universe. He looked peaceful, settled. "Hey," she said quietly, "do you ever miss it?" "Miss what?" "That other life, the headlines, the shine." He looked at her, eyes clear. "Sometimes, but then I remember what it cost me." Sophia nodded. "You still have money, Ethan." "Yeah," he smiled, "but now I know what it can't buy." They sat in silence for a long moment. She rested her hand on his knee, grounding them both. "What now?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "Now we pick up the crumbs, herd the boys home, and try not to step on Lego." She laughed. "So, romance is dead." "No," he said, "romance is real, and real means stepping on Legos and still wanting to come back tomorrow." She leaned her head against his shoulder, the sunlight warming them both. The city moved on in the distance, horns, lights, headlines. But here, beneath a canopy of trees and possibility, a different kind of empire had been built. No tower, no ceremony. Just a woman, a man, 3 boys with matching eyes, and a love that finally learned how to stay.